And then we have the notorious chest puzzle. This the rope plays a part of this puzzle, as we mentioned the rope earlier. We've had so much trouble. The whole puzzle with just getting the tire to behave like we wanted it to, which is far from perfect than what we wanted.
I think this is the puzzle we worked the most on that changed the least during the iterations, because we were afraid of changing it too much, I think, and we didn't really have a nice way to solve the problems that it has. And I think we never really felt like it fit with the whole you're a young child thing.
Yeah.
Because you stretch out and you grab this big heavy tire that's hanging there, and it's, when you think about it, it doesn't really fit. But I don't think people have a big problem with it.
It's probably the puzzle that I like the least. I like the idea and the design that we had, but it just never turned out the way I pictured it. And it was partly that the rope was really hard and just it lived its own life. But also we had the internal discussions of this puzzle shouldn't be in because it's too heavy, and people thought that it might break immersion and all that as well.
In an earlier iteration of this level, you had to get a key from a tree that was standing above the maze, and you would throw something at it and it would fall down into the maze, and then you would have to go through it to find the object. And that was, I think, the puzzle that made us realize that having physical keys that you had to carry around is a bad idea, because the player can toss them around and lose them and never get them back again, which is a hard design problem. So we ended up having inventory objects that you just magically get into your pocket when you click on them, instead of having the player carrying them around.
So maze, here it darkens a bit, and I also we added like heartbeats here to kind of foreshadow things, because there's an event at the end of the maze when you. It's also very claustrophobic, but at the end there's like this place, and you can see it leads down, and if you go down you're trapped, and so it starts kind of being scary and heart beating, and the kid is nervous, and with the right to be, because once you go in you're trapped. I think when we tried the game, at conferences or expos and whatever, it was the people who already were prepared to be scared. They would be so much more scared than people who didn't, because people they make this horror themselves. Like we just kind of try to set up the horror for them.
This place creeps me out. I hope your mother is okay.
We did talk about having the level change a lot as you climbed up this last tower, with like rock slides going off and just everything falling apart around you. Sadly, we never got the time to implement that.
When you go into the tower, every time you go in here, you hear like some sort of rumbling, and you feel like sort of the world around you sort of changes a bit, so that you get the feeling that you escaped something. Here's a bridge tied to sort of the imagination field aesthetic. So it sort of exists as a part of the extension of the imagination area.
Yes, and we wanted to do this to highlight the bridge, and just to make the players realize that when they get to the top of the tower, they are getting really close to getting the imagination object, which is what they have been searching for the whole time.
These memory fields, or imagination fields as we call them, they came into being when we realized that we needed to have more concrete goals for the levels. Because in the beginning, your objective in a level was to go and find the exit. So we needed these key fragments that you would collect as you go through the game in order to unlock the final door or something like that. So we needed to put these objects into the levels in a way that the player would recognize when he or she encounters it. Like, you should instantly recognize that this is something important, something special, something that stands out from everything else. And as these objects are fragments of the kids' imagination, we also wanted them to emphasize that these are part of a different reality than the one you are usually walking around in. So we put the objects inside these glowing, big, refractive spheres. Actually, there are no spheres left. We made it more like drapes that cover invisible things. And we also had this kind of distortion effect on it, where things inside will appear to be not real, I guess. It's they don't appear tangible.
All right then, one more time. But that's it.
So these imagination fields felt very empty and boring for a long time, because all that was in them was these single objects that you didn't really have any connection to, because this was the first time you were properly introduced to it, and you just picked it up and moved on and found the end of the level. So it didn't have the impact that we wanted it to have, because these are like the main objectives or sub-objectives in the game. Yeah, so we needed to connect these areas to the mother in a way. So yeah, what we did, as you can see here, is that we put her in here and we posed her in a way that could be related to the object that was in the field. Like the toy elephant, she will stand up and she will hold it as if she's playing around with it in front of the kid. And the book, for example, she will sit, she will kneel, and she will hold the book in front of her as if she is reading for the kid. We wanted it to be connected to the memory that the kid has of the mother.
And now we come to the most musical part of our show, the xylophone bridge. I'm not sure if it was still inverted, but there was an accident where we kind of inverted the xylophone bridge so that the biggest one would sound the highest, which is of course not what it's like in the real world, but I kind of liked it. It's kind of a cool disconnect.
Oh, finally. We must be getting closer.
The one responsible for the sound system was also the one responsible for everything AI, and the AI was always much more broken than the audio. So it was also always painful to me to kind of have to tap her on the shoulder and ask if she could look at the audio, because she would it would always be a bad priority because we needed AI, of course. So I think that's sort of the most striking part of the game, that sort of shows that it's bad to develop your own audio engine functionality when you don't really have the resources for it.
We made it back.
I guess there's a lot to be said about the pipes in the game. That is used as a transition between the chapters and into the hub between the chapters. It's basically a relic from an earlier version of the story. I know, Anders, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, so this goes back to an early iteration where Teddy was the bad guy. The pipes were all meant to be to take you to the hub and then to the next levels. But then what you would learn is that these were all just these would always take you to into like Teddy's lair, where and all the levels were like they were constructed to be scary for children, so he would drag children through them and make it scary, and the pipes would drain their fear, and then towards the end you would learn that the fear was condensed and became liquid and then boiled, and then and then the game would end by him Teddy showing his real character, which was a scary monster, and he would put the child into the boiling fear pot, and that was the ending of the game for the longest time.
There was also a huge chapter, the last chapter, that was cut, which basically takes these metal themes of these pipes and sums them kind of up in this huge machinery. So you would kind of get their role, as you wouldn't understand that during the game.
We have to find a way to safety. Find a way out of this mess. Your mother. She must be so worried about you. But don't be afraid. You and me will work this all out together. I know we will. Well, you know the ropes by now.
We also used like the recording of the mom singing the lullaby here, as sort of like showing that it got clearer the more toys you get in. So every time you go to hub and activate, you'll get more and more cool. Like you'll hear the mother getting closer and less sort of distorted. It's sort of like midways between her sounding from a different sphere and midways sort of transistor broken speaker.
Yes, she sounds clearer now, don't you think? Whoa. Come on, we have no time to lose. Watch your step. Whenever you're ready.
Now you see that everything is different behind the door. This is what we talked about earlier, that it gives like a little bit of prequel of the next level. All the sounds are changed out, and the mother sounds clear each time. It's a bit of sound and visuals for the next level.
I feel that we nailed a lot of areas to what Among the Sleep turned out as. So, with like I mentioned before, the big and the fantastical, I think we nailed. I love the feeling of the swamp areas in level 3. The forested house, I really enjoyed that level. And that's everything from atmosphere to the art. I think we've been really lucky, I guess, with the skill level of the people and how much they did and how hard they worked for Among the Sleep.
I think the whole game has a curve, a tension curve, and like level 3 has that in itself. It starts off quiet, it gets eerie, and then it gets full-blown scary as you get chased by a monster. And then it's scary up until the end, where it's calm again. You meet the mother, and yeah, it's like you have the whole tension curve of the game in one level. So if I wanted to show people one level, that would have to be it.
What is this place? I think we should keep quiet.
In the initial design of this level, the forested house, there was an active gameplay mechanic that allowed the player to switch between the house and the forest. It's a mechanic that might have been a good fit if the whole game was based around it. But just for this level, we felt it was a bit too much. Plus, it also required us to make 2 full versions of this level, and so it's a bad idea from a production perspective in that sense.
Once you come into the big room, you notice there's a lot of lighting focused on the 3 places you can go. They're all blocked, but you see the clear kind of motive of a painting on each one. The one in front of you, and Teddy even states this, has some floating things which are similar to the ones you've seen inside the imagination fields. It's sort of how we kind of told people, like, this is where you go.
We were actually stuck on this puzzle mechanic for the longest time, and it was one of the longest and most drawn out discussions we had of probably of the entire game, as far as I can remember. Where we first started out with statues instead of a puzzle piece, and there were things you were supposed to do with the statues. But then we had a internal argument whether this was suited for Among the Sleep because of the child theme. Is this childish enough, or would the child not understand any of this? And so we ended up doing basically the same, but in a much more child-themed wrapping. So we made it a combination of a painting and a jigsaw puzzle instead. So you're basically finding jigsaw pieces, and I think it worked quite well in the end.
Those floaty things, they look like memories. Maybe the next one is behind those roots.
I didn't know much about shaders before I started working on Among the Sleep. I did like an assignment on it back in school, but just saying to yourself that, yeah, okay, we need somebody that learns more about shaders, so let's do this and just dive into it and start discovering this whole world of possibilities. And then you have teammates that join you and are as eager as you at learning new stuff, and suddenly you have, like, for example, in level 3, when you place a puzzle piece in the center, like, wood stump there, and like the trees, the roots and stuff blocking the passages to the left just starts dissolving, and you just know the kind of effect you want to achieve before you start working on it. You know how to solve it, and you just solve it, and it works, and it looks amazing. That's amazing. That's
Here we used to have also, like, we were struggling a lot, doing a lot of rotation stuff earlier. Like, you had to rotate the things you had in your hand to make use of them, and the puzzles used to be that you had to rotate the puzzle right, but it was kind of not intuitive, and so we dropped that. Now it's easy to place.